Hi, Year 8s. So far this term, we've been looking at who Jesus was and some of the places that Christians and other people look to know about who Jesus was and what he did. And we've looked at the Bible and why it is or isn't necessarily seen as a historical document as to who Jesus was, and the Gospels, the stories about Jesus' life. But we also looked at who people were hoping Jesus might be by looking at this idea of a Messiah. We looked at Isaiah's Messiah checklist. So what were the Jewish people waiting for and hoping that Jesus might be? And remember that there were many people who were called the Messiah at this time, and Jesus Christ of Nazareth is the one that really sort of stuck it out in terms of Christianity coming from the beliefs about what he did. And some people don't believe he was at all. So, for example, Jewish people are still waiting for the Messiah to come. They don't believe it was. But at the time of Jesus, many people felt, okay, now is the time there is going to be a Messiah because of the conditions that the Jews lived under occupation by the Roman army in Jerusalem and, what's now Israel or Palestine. And so they were waiting for this Messiah. Now, this then means, doesn't it, that the people in charge were quite nervous about there being uprisings. There were many people who were rising up against them. So when this man came along who was talking about giving people freedom, about giving people a new kingdom on earth, who seemed to speak with a certain authority and a charisma, and many people followed him and liked him and liked his message, two things happened. Some people gathered around him thinking that he was going to overthrow the army and kick them out and get rid of them and be a freedom fighter Messiah. And the second thing that happened was the authorities felt very uncomfortable and didn't like this because they thought they were going to lose their power. And they thought that everything was going to, fall apart, the control that they had. And so it was quite a tense time. And this built up and up and up to the point where the authorities and other religious leaders at the time felt so threatened by this that they arranged for Jesus to be killed. So today you're going to look at this in a bit more detail to work out the steps and the stages and how it happened and the importance that it has for Christians in particular. Muslims do not believe that Jesus was killed on the cross, and that's what we're going to look at next lesson and look at the evidence and where this is written in the Quran. So we will get to that next lesson, but it's very important for Christians that he did die on the cross. Most atheists or secular people would say there was a man called Jesus who did die on the cross, and what they would not necessarily agree with is that he rose again from the dead. So next lesson we'll really look at these different opinions, but today we're focusing on the Christian view, the Christian narrative from the Bible that he did die on the cross and that he did rise again, and look at it, what Christians believe about this. Now, I said some people thought he was going to rise up and free people like physically in the world, and one of these people chose to become one of his followers and was chosen, and he was called Judas. And so I wanted to talk to you about that because he plays quite an important role, you're going to see, in the death of Jesus. And he really thought that Jesus was going to be someone who would rise up against the soldiers like you see on this screen and cause the freedom of people like here on earth. And when he began to realize that might not happen, he got quite upset about it, and he felt a bit let down by Jesus. And so you're going to see how this plays out later in the lesson today, and that's why the song you heard earlier was what you were thinking about, the feelings that Judas had. He's got quite an important role in the story that you're going to look at. So we've looked at who Jesus is, and now we're coming to this crucial moment of his death and then resurrection, and we're looking from that Christian perspective. So the resources you're going to see are by Christians talking about what they believe. You may not agree with it. That's absolutely fine. This is what they believe. And next lesson, we'll move on to the other views and start to kind of evaluate and work out what we think ourselves. Okay, good lesson, guys. Bye-bye.